What's good? This is JVB representing SPD, and that is sportsperdiem.com. There was two big fights at UFC 236, and damn, did they deliver. In this video, I want to talk about the winner of the co-main event, which was Israel Adesanya, who is now the UFC interim middleweight champion. Is Israel Adesanya the biggest star in the sport right now? Israel Adesanya has only been in the UFC for 1 year, and he has steadily improved as the competition has gotten better, leading to his UFC 236 fight with Kelvin Gastelum, which was a war, which is one of the greatest middleweight fights of all time in UFC history. He comes through, he knocks down Kelvin Gastelum a couple of times in the 5th round, and he wins himself a unanimous decision, which earned him the UFC interim middleweight championship. Now that has set him up for a huge title unification bout against Aussie Robert Whittaker, the New Zealand guy, the Australian guy. Even though Robert Whittaker is New Zealand born, he reps Australia, and you got Izzy who reps New Zealand. That is going to be a big ticket fight wherever they do that in Australia. But back to my question. Is Israel Adesanya the biggest star in the UFC today? I say this because Chael Sonnen mentioned this during the UFC post-fight when Israel Adesanya was in the booth. He told Izzy that you are the biggest star in the UFC today. Then Chael ran it back and he said it again. He did a video on it and he said that Israel Adesanya is the biggest star in the UFC today. Of course, there is the caveat of Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov being out for their personal reasons, suspensions or whatever. And since that's the case, he said right now, Israel Adesanya is the biggest star in the UFC. So do I 100% agree with Chael Sonnen? I don't completely agree right now because as much as people hate him, Jon Jones is still a big draw. But what I will say is that Israel is not that far away. In fact, he may be on Jon Jones' heels right now as the most popular guy in the UFC currently right now. Now, I will say that if he goes to Australia for that big fight with Robert Whittaker and he decisively beats him, I think even with Conor Khabib back, that he can very well be on that Mount Rushmore of biggest draws in the UFC. You know, because Conor is Conor. As long as Conor is still in the UFC, he's still going to be the biggest draw in the company. I believe that's undeniable. But as far as number 2, I clearly believe that Israel Adesanya could very well be at number 2 by the end of 2019. I really do. Israel just got that it factor, man. He's smooth with the media. He's smooth with his fighting style. He has a fun fighting style. He's very charismatic. He has all the tools to be one of the biggest names in this sport. Now, would he still be an undefeated fighter over the years? No, I don't think so personally. And I could be doubting him. I could be in the wrong right now, but I don't think he'll be undefeated his whole career because who really is, you know? Besides the bullshit that happened with Jon Jones and Matt Hamill back in the day, you know, Jon Jones is undefeated, technically, but not too many guys are ending their careers undefeated. So, yeah, he might lose a fight or two here and there, but as we've seen with Conor McGregor, that doesn't have to be the case. As long as you continue to be yourself and go out there and try to have an entertaining fight every time you're in that octagon, you won't lose much star power. So I absolutely agree that Israel Adesanya is a star in the making. Well, let me rephrase that because he is a star right now, but I think he can very well be one of the biggest stars in the company before too long. And it'll only accelerate if he can go out there and compete in front of 70, 80, 90,000 people, defeat Robert Whittaker, and become the undisputed UFC middleweight champion. Because you have a lot of guys who believe that the belt doesn't mean anything and who cares about competing for a belt. But I disagree. Because you know who cares about belts? Casual fans. Casual fans see a guy in Israel Adesanya dominating. They see commercials on ESPN. They see a guy who's the champion defending his title fight after fight after fight. They probably go to a UFC video on YouTube. They see his personality. They be like, oh, damn, this guy's funny. He's smooth. He's a good fighter. He's the champion. He's been dominating. Whereas if you're just a fun fighter and you're just going out there and you're winning fights, but then you lose one, then you win another fight, then you lose another fight, and you don't have a belt, those casual fans are going to look at him like, oh, he looks like a good fighter, but I don't think he's the champion. In fact, he's not headlining the show. He's in the co-main event, or he's in the co-main event. It's all about the headlining, man. It's all about being that big name at the top of the bill every single show. You keep getting that rub, your star is going to continue to grow, especially with his style and his charisma, man. So to sum it up, I do believe that he is one of the biggest stars in the UFC, but I don't believe he is the biggest star right now in the UFC. I still believe Jon Jones holds that mantle for now. And who knows, one day we might really see those guys fight each other. You know, they've been talking shit to each other on social media, in the press. So maybe we do see that fight one day. I think for Izzy's sake, it needs to be one day. It can't be soon, because Jon Jones will work his ass so fucking good. And I like Izzy, but I'm just keeping it real. So yes, Israel Adesanya is definitely a star right now in the UFC, and I really believe by the end of 2019, he can very well be one of the biggest names in this sport, period. But to the listener, do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below. I'd appreciate the feedback. But I'm done. Like the video, share the video, and remember to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, take it easy. God bless. Peace.